Jake stretched out on his worn leather couch, absent-mindedly scratching behind the ears of his German shepherd, Max. The loyal dog's tail thumped happily against the floor, creating a rhythm that had become the soundtrack to Jake's life over the past 8 years. A sudden flash of blue light filled the living room, causing Max to leap to his feet with a warning growl. Jake sat up, heart racing, as 3 tall, gray-skinned aliens materialized before him. Their large, almond-shaped eyes blinked in confusion as they took in the scene. "Human Jake," the tallest alien said, his voice a strange mix of clicks and whistles. "We are researchers from the Galactic Federation. We've come to study your unusual relationship with non-sentient creatures." Jake's mind reeled. Aliens? Galactic Federation? He glanced at Max, who was now standing protectively in front of him, hackles raised. "Easy, boy," Jake murmured, placing a calming hand on the dog's back. To the aliens, he said, Okay, but first, can you guys maybe, I don't know, sit down or something? You're freaking out my dog." The aliens exchanged puzzled looks before awkwardly perching on the edge of Jake's coffee table. Max relaxed slightly but kept a wary eye on the visitors. "Fascinating," the second alien said, pulling out a device that looked like a cross between a tablet and a kaleidoscope. "The canine shows clear protective behavior towards you despite lacking higher cognitive functions. How do you explain this, human Jake?" Jake chuckled, scratching Max behind the ears again. "Max here isn't just some dumb animal. He's smart, loyal, and he's been my best friend for years. We have a bond." The alien's eyes widened in unison. A bond? With a non-sentient creature, the third alien asked, his tone a mix of disbelief and curiosity. "But how is that possible? They cannot engage in complex communication or abstract thought." Jake shrugged. "Maybe not the way you guys do, but Max and I understand each other just fine. Watch this," he turned to the dog. "Max, go get your ball." Max's ears perked up, and he trotted off to the other room. A moment later, he returned with a well-worn tennis ball in his mouth, tail wagging excitedly. The aliens gasped in amazement. "It understood your verbal command," the first alien exclaimed, "and it performed a task based on that understanding." Jake grinned, taking the ball from Max and tossing it gently across the room. Max bounded after it, his nails clicking on the hardwood floor. "See, he's not just some mindless beast. We play together, we go on walks, we keep each other company. Max has been there for me through some really tough times." The second alien leaned forward, his long fingers tapping rapidly on his strange device. "Please elaborate on these tough times, human Jake. How could a non-sentient creature provide support during periods of distress?" Jake's smile faded slightly as memories washed over him. "Well, about 3 years ago I lost my job. I was pretty depressed, didn't want to get out of bed most days. But Max, he never gave up on me. He'd bring me his leash every morning, basically forcing me to take him for walks. Those walks got me out of the house, got me moving. Slowly but surely. I started to feel better." The aliens exchanged looks of confusion and wonder. The third one spoke up, his voice soft. "But how did the canine know you needed assistance? How could it possibly understand the concept of depression?" Jake reached out to ruffle Max's fur as the dog returned with the ball. "I don't think Max understands depression the way we do, but he could sense that something was wrong. Animals, especially dogs, are incredibly empathetic. They pick up on our emotions, our body language. Max knew I was sad, and he did what he could to help." The first alien shook his head in disbelief. This level of emotional intelligence in a non-sentient species, it's unprecedented. Our studies have shown that such creatures are driven purely by instinct and basic needs. Jake laughed. "No offense, but your studies are way off. Max here isn't just driven by instinct. He has his own personality, his own quirks. Like how he always has to spin in a circle 3 times before he lies down, or how he tilts his head when he hears a strange noise." As if on cue, a car backfired outside, causing Max to cock his head to the side, ears perked. The aliens watched in fascination. "Remarkable," the second alien muttered, furiously tapping on his device. "The level of individualization you described goes far beyond our current understanding of non-sentient creatures." Jake nodded, a mischievous glint in his eye. "You know, if you guys really want to understand the bond between humans and animals, you should try it yourselves. Why don't you pet Max?" The aliens recoiled slightly, looking at each other uncertainly. Finally, the third alien stood up, his long arms trembling slightly. I will attempt this petting ritual, he said, his voice quavering. Jake patted the couch beside him and Max hopped up, sitting attentively. The alien approached slowly, his hand outstretched. Max watched him curiously but remained calm. That's it, Jake encouraged. Just let him sniff your hand first. The alien held his hand near Max's nose. The dog took a quick sniff, then gave the alien's fingers a small lick. The alien jerked back in surprise, then laughed a strange, melodious sound. It's not unpleasant, he said, reaching out again to gently stroke Max's head. The fur is soft and warm. Jake grinned as he watched the alien's expression change from trepidation to wonder. See? Not so scary after all, right? The other two aliens, emboldened by their colleagues' experience, soon joined in. Before long, all three were taking turns petting Max, marveling at the texture of his fur and the way he leaned into their touch. I believe I'm beginning to understand, the first alien said softly, scratching under Max's chin. There's a connection forming. It's unlike anything I've experienced before. Jake nodded, a warmth spreading through his chest. That's it. That's the bond I was talking about. It's not something you can really explain, you have to feel it for yourself. The aliens spent the next few hours asking Jake questions about his life with Max, watching in amazement as the two demonstrated various tricks and games. They were particularly impressed by Max's ability to sense Jake's moods and respond accordingly. As the day wore on, the aliens' initial scientific detachment gave way to genuine affection for Max. By the time they prepared to leave, all three were reluctant to say goodbye. Human Jake, the first alien said, his voice filled with emotion, we came here to study, but we leave having learned far more than we ever expected. The bond you share with this creature, it's beautiful and powerful. Jake smiled, giving Max a final pat. Thanks. I'm glad you guys got to experience it for yourselves. Maybe you can take what you've learned back to your people. Who knows? Maybe someday you'll have your own animal companions. The aliens nodded enthusiastically. We will certainly be recommending further study into human-animal relationships, the second alien said. Perhaps we've been too quick to dismiss non-sentient species as unimportant. As the aliens prepared to teleport away, the third one turned to Jake with a curious expression. Human Jake, one final question. Given the depth of your bond with Max and knowing his lifespan is significantly shorter than yours, how do you cope with the knowledge that you will outlive him? Jake's smile turned bittersweet. He looked down at Max, who gazed back at him with unwavering loyalty. That's the thing about love, he said softly. Sometimes it hurts. But the joy and companionship Max brings to my life, it's worth every second of pain I'll feel when he's gone. Because in the end, it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. The aliens fell silent, contemplating Jake's words. As they vanished in another flash of blue light, Jake could see the newfound understanding in their eyes. He turned to Max, pulling the dog into a tight hug. Well, boy, he said, his voice thick with emotion, looks like we taught some aliens a thing or two about love today. What do you say we go for a walk to celebrate? Max's excited bark was all the answer he needed. As they stepped out into the fading sunlight, Jake couldn't help but smile. In a universe full of advanced alien civilizations and unimaginable technology, sometimes the most profound connections were the simplest ones. And he wouldn't have it any other way.